Yo, what's going on, guys? It's the Casual Cube, and I finally did it. I finally completed one Planeswalker Deck challenge in Vraska Regal Gorgon. So I went with a Golgari Graveyard grind and mount kind of strategy with the Molder Hulk and Memorial to Folly combo, and it's really budget friendly, so we can slam that combo into our Vraska Planeswalker deck because it's that good. It's really high power level if you can get beyond the early game. Uh, I'm actually gonna save all my in-depth analysis for like the battle report. I do a monthly battle report. I'm actually behind um, 1 week. I had to miss week 2, unfortunately, and trust me, I wanted to play because in these early days of the meta, when the meta is just being established, especially at your local game store, when it's only like 10, 15, 20 people. Um, it's a really open format, and as a matter of fact, there was only I think like 2 mono red and like one Rakdos, which is kind of like a burn deck, I guess. But everything else was like a wide open format. We had mono blue, Esper Control, um, Groll. I saw a Groll deck. There was like an Orzhov like Aristocrats budget deck that I saw. I don't know if he took that from Strictly Better Magic, but Selesnya tokens, which I actually lost to in the final round. We were both 3-0 in the final round, round 4, and I won the first game, and I was like, oh my goodness, is this it? In my inside, I'm like thinking to myself, am I going 4-0 tonight with a Planeswalker deck? Like a sub $30 deck, and unfortunately, that's why you never get ahead of yourself. You have to, you know, focus and really close out the game and close out the round. And I didn't do that. He actually won game 2 and game 3 after boards. As a matter of fact, when I do my monthly battle report, I'll go into what I think I should have done better. Maybe included some Plague Mares, or maybe like not Cry of Canaria, maybe Golden Demise, or just some kind of board wipe against the Selesnya tokens deck. Alright, so just a quick reminder of what the challenge is, the Planeswalker Deck Challenge. It's just something that I like to do, just to collect the Planeswalker decks, improve them, and then later have something that's, for the kitchen table. I can introduce my friends who haven't played before, and then, give them a Planeswalker deck. They're relatively straightforward, but yeah, so the challenge is to take a Planeswalker deck, swap out the majority of the unplayable cards, things like vanilla creatures that don't really have any good stats, or maybe they're just like they require the Planeswalker to be out in order to get like a bonus synergy. Yeah, we're gonna neglect those cards because it's just better off to play another budget playable card. So yeah, we're taking another $5 to $10 worth of upgrades, and then actually try and compete at local FNM. Go at least 50 win loss percentage. Try and get at least 2 wins. In my case, at my local FNM, we have 4 rounds, so try and get at least 2 wins. So the core strategy of the deck is to really outgrind your opponent with this infinite combo, this loop of Memorial to Folly, where we can bring back a Memorial to Folly, bring back a Molder Hulk with Memorial to Folly, put our Molder Hulk into our hand, Memorial to Folly it has been sacrificed, put into our graveyard, and then cast a Molder Hulk, later on in the game, cast it for really cheap, and then bring back our Memorial to Folly, with the second clause, returning target land from your graveyard to the battlefield. Of course, it does enter the battlefield tapped, but the next turn you can sacrifice again and bring back something. So if you have a bunch of Molder Hulks in your graveyard, you can start bringing them back and just really outgrind your opponent. So that's the core strategy. So let's get into our creatures. So looking at the 1-drops here, I only opened one Stitcher Supplier, and honestly, maybe one more could really help, but I only saw it in the graveyard with a Glowspore Shaman. I never actually put it on the battlefields, obviously because I'm playing only with one copy, so it's not very consistent. But on the budgets, $1.50 for this kind of card, you can say it's debatable that you do need all of that graveyard synergy, but at the same time, on a budget, you can just go 4 copies of Pilfering Imp. As a matter of fact, in round 3, I faced an Azorius aggro, the white weenie splash blue deck, and it was kind of weird. He actually didn't get Deputy of Detention. He only splashed it for the negates, which I thought was really weird. talking to him afterwards. But anyways, because I think Deputy Detention is that good. I mean, you should, if you're gonna splash blue, you might as well get the Deputy Detention. But anyways, yeah, he burned a Conclave Tribunal on one of my Pilfering Imps, and he was playing like a Johnny's in History of Benalia's. So, but for a 1-drop to demand that much respect that it eats up a Conclave Tribunal or any kind of removal, you could just play the 4 Pilfering Imps, and it's for the Stitcher Supplier for $1.50 a pop. I'd rather be spending those funds on like a Ravenous Chupacabra, for instance. But I opened one in the booster pack and I just threw it in there. The Glowspore Shaman, I definitely think you need to play all 4 copies. We originally in the Planeswalker deck it comes with 2 Glowspore Shamans, but it's so awesome. It's a 3-power creature. Of course, it does have that 1 toughness, but it gets stuff in the graveyard, gets creatures in the graveyard, and also we can fix our lands a little bit. You can bring a Memorial to Folly to the top of your deck if you so choose, or obviously if you can just get like a regular on curve land, like a regular forest or a swamp. It just helps just to smooth out your curve a little bit. And the Knight of Malice here, I've actually main decked. This card is just so awesome, at least in my local game store, at least in my local meta. With the White Weenie, there's this like middle schooler kid who plays White Weenie, and I just this past FNM yesterday in the 3rd round was another White Weenie deck. I actually never saw that guy before, but anyways, I just know it's really well positioned in this meta because in week 1, I missed week 2, but in week 1, when I was playing Mono Black Control, Deputy Detention came into effect in like round 4. So I know that card's in my meta lurking around. So just having a hexproof 3/2 against white decks is really, really strong. It puts on the beats. It trades well with History of Benalia. The Crawl Harpooners, actually, I think we can put them in the sideboard because I'm not seeing as much Drakes. In week 1 I did face a Drake deck, but when I was recording my local meta, I don't think I actually saw anyone at week 3 with the Drake's deck. The person that was in week 1 that was playing the Drake's deck wasn't there. So you could probably, if you so choose, put all 4 or all 3 of these Crawl Harpooners, so you can have 4 on the sideboard, and just swap them for the Orzhov Enforcers. Because I was actually really impressed with the Orzhov Enforcers. It just clogs up the board. It makes sure that it ensures that we get to our late game, because we're really trying to grind them out. This deck is all about getting that graveyard value, getting that infinite combo with Molder Hulk and Memorial to Folly to just outvalue your opponent. And if they don't have Excellence Binding for Molder Hulk, he can just keep on grinding, just keep on going. So the Orzhov Enforcer really enforces that, ensures that we get to our late game so we can grind them out. So moving on, Charnel Troll, my boy. I'm never dropping this card. I love this guy. Initially, my initial builds in at attempt 1 and 2 for the Planeswalker Deck Challenge, I played 3 copies of Charnel Troll because I just love the guy. I see 3 mana 4/4s and I'm like, please, I want to make it work. But I actually did win one game. I don't know what game it was in against round 3 against the Azorius aggro deck, because he just couldn't deal with it. He didn't have any answers. I was just pounding him, And I was like, I think I discarded. I had a Zoni and a Molder Hulk that I was like far from casting, so I just pitched those in my graveyard and exiled them. Because on the untap step, you can actually untap and then discard a card and then exile that card. And the 4 district guides. Just really helps smooth out the curve. I actually took this card from Dev from Strictly Better Magic's $5 Guilds of Ravnica decks with the Golgari, and he put this in there. I was like, whoa, yeah, dude, this is awesome. We're getting the 2/2 body, so we can just trade it in. Actually, in round 1 against Mono Red Burn, he burned a shock, and I was like, yes, of course, that's awesome. Not only do I get my land, but you also burn a shock on one of my 2/2s. I mean, that's totally cool. So we can just, an extra value card. The Ravenous Chupacabras, they're trading at $1.20, $1.25. But, just having the 2 copies in here, I think, is a must. We do initially get the Beast Whisperer from the Planeswalker deck, but, I think throwing the extra $2, $2.50 to get at least 2 Ravenous Chupacabras is well worth it. And to stay on the budget side, of course, you can go all 4, but to stay on the budget side, I decided to opt for Joseph Vest as well as 1 Golgari Findbroker. The Golgari Findbroker is just nice value, has a nice chunky body to really, again, have another thing that's clogging the board so we can ensure that we get into our late game. While Joseph Vest initially, if it's just a 4/5, well, that's another good solid blocker. Or we can even start swigging it because it does have the built-in menace. And on top of that, if it goes to the graveyard, if they have to burn removal, we can just have it in our graveyard, and then later on in the game, late game, we can kick it. We can Memorial to Folly our Josu Vess, and then have another late game threat, late game bomb. So that's the 4-mana suite right there. But the one copy of Charnel Troll, I wasn't sure how I was going to work with Undergrowth, but it actually is really clutch, because if you have no answer for a Charnel Troll and it just keeps on growing and growing, you're probably going to win the game right then and there once you drop Charnel Troll. So I'm stuck in one Charnel Troll. I'm going to keep it, even though we need our Undergrowth, our graveyard for the Undergrowth payoffs. So yeah, here we go, Ozoni, probably the key Undergrowth payoff to get a bunch of those tokens. It's actually funny, in round 1 against the Mono Red, I got 4 insect tokens, right? And before she Goblin Chain Rollered, and then I Ozoni'd, and then she did another Goblin Chain Roller, killed all my stuff. But I still won that game because I just outgrinded the Mono Red deck. They didn't have enough burn. They didn't have enough answers for my threads. I think I had like a Molder Hulk later on too. The Fine Finality, I only opened one from a booster pack, but this card I definitely think you need to get at least one more. Go up to 2 copies, I think you'll be really happy. Even 3, I see a lot of decks main decking 3 from the previous meta. So, I think you could probably be a safe bet for at least 2. But I only opened one from opening boosters, and initially this card was actually really expensive in the previous meta when I was initially doing the first attempts and the second attempt. The first 2 attempts, they weren't in Ravnica Allegiance, so definitely improve your copies to 2 for the Fine Finality. And of course, the Vraska Stoneglare and the Vraska Regal Gorgon, you got to keep, at least for the Planeswalker Deck challenge, in my opinion, at least for the spirit of the challenge, you have to keep your tutor as well as your Planeswalker, just because that's, it's just the spirit of the Planeswalker Deck challenge. So, and then last but not least is Molder Hulk, the showstopper himself. This card is amazing. Initially starts off at 9 mana, but for every creature card that you have in your graveyard, it's reduced by 1. And, later on in the game, you're casting 2 mana Molder Hulks and bringing back your Memorial to Follies from the graveyard tapped onto the battlefield, and it's just getting infinite value. It's honestly... It's kind of broken if you do not have the Ixalan's Binding to stop the Molder Hulk, or if you aren't aggro enough early in the game. Molder Hulk plus the Memorial to Folly combo can really outgrind, I think, the vast majority of decks. Even control decks, they're eventually going to run out of answers. So yeah, they really got to take care of Molder Hulk somehow, especially with Ixalan's Binding. I think it's the key card to stop the combo from running. But yeah, that's the deck that I won with, went 3-1 with. And for the land base, I only included 1 extra Evolving Wilds. Of course, you need the 4 Memorial to Follies for the Molder Hulk. 6 swamps. So we have 10 black sources, 10 green sources, 1 Evolving Wilds, and 4 Golgari Guildgates. Because remember, we are playing with the District Guide, so we can fix our mana. I had no issues with the mana, as well as the Glowspore Shaman. You can get your lands. More or less corrected, your colors more or less corrected. It's not that demanding on the curve. When you're playing dual colors, you really do need a lot of dual colored sources just so you can play your stuff. But in this case, with the District Guides, I think we're safe with the 4 Golgari Guildgates that came with the Planeswalker deck. So for the sideboard, I included 1 extra Pilfering Imp, 1 extra Necrotic Wound, which I felt like I was always including the Necrotic Wounds against the creature decks. 4 Duresses, 1 extra copy of Crawl Harpooner, 2 Playcrafters, just in case, like Teferi. That way we have the 4 Pilfering Imps, the 4 Duresses, and 2 Playcrafters against Teferi, just some interaction against a strong Planeswalker like that. Isreth, for the long endurance matchup. I know there's another kid from the middle school crew that plays Golgari with Journey to Eternity. So, if I'm going against him, just have another creature that I can have as another, just bring back something from the graveyard, really outgrind our opponent. 1 Crushing Canopy for, Conclave Tribunals, any enchantments or any flyers, which I did sideboard in against the Tokens deck, because he was main decking Shalais. But it didn't really make a difference in game 2 or 3. The Crawl Forgers, which did make a difference in round 1 against the Mono Red deck. I gained like 4 life off of 1 of the Crawl Forgers, and just enough to stabilize. They got to deal with a 4/4 body that it just clogs up the board. And a Lot Less Giant, which I did not sideboard in, but I want to have one in the sideboard, and it comes with the Planeswalker deck. So I'm trying to maintain a high retention percentage of the original deck, just because I think that'd be kind of cool as another factor for the challenge. Just so as a beginner, if you bought the Planeswalker deck and you're trying to retain, you don't have that many cards. Let's try and retain as many cards as we possibly can. So I think that this from the sideboard against maybe another Golgari deck, another really long endurance game. Maybe the first game it went down to like 15, 20 turns or whatever. Just a really long grind out game. Maybe the Lot Giant from the sideboard can really help sneak a win in game 2 and 3. So this is our curve. 25 lands, 31 creatures, 4 non-creatures. Again, I'll probably include maybe one more Find Finality, bring this down to 30 creatures, and then 5 non-creatures. So that way you have the Vraska, Regal Gorgon, the 2 Vraska Stoneglare to tutor out, and then the 2 Find Finalities. And I think that'd be a good sweet spot for because you definitely, for the Golgari Undergrowth strategy, you want to have a lot of creatures so you can put them in the graveyard, or you can trade on the battlefield and then get them eventually into the graveyard. So you're really trying to go to Value Town with all of these creatures. So you want to have a high percentage of creatures. Now, as far as the original Planeswalker deck retention, or card retention, if we're including lands, we are using 28 of the 60 cards from the original deck, so about 47%. And excluding the lands, we're only using 8 cards. With the Vraska Stoneglare, Vraska Regal Gorgon, the one Beast Whisperer, which I wanted to include because it's like a $2 rare right now. I mean, it's pretty good in the Elf deck, and I think it's if it goes unanswered, every time you cast a creature spell, draw a card. I mean, that's pretty good in our deck, I think. So I wanted to include. I think it's that strong. We don't have too much of a draw engine in our deck. We're really trying to outvalue our opponent with the Memorial to Folly as well as the Molder Hulk combo. So just having an extra card draw, I wanted to include it. I think it was strong enough. And then we need to. It does include, the Planeswalker deck does include 2 Glowspore Shamans, but we do need 2 more that we need to order, or you need to order for your friend or whatever if you're brand new to the game. But our land base, we're using all 4 of the Golgari Guildgates, 10 forests, 6 swamps. You do need to get the More with the Folly, and just 1 Evolving Wild to help smooth out our colors. And from the original Planeswalker deck, the one copy of Crawl Forgers and the 1 Lawless Giant are going into the sideboard because I think they're good in those position from the sideboard, not in the main deck, but Crawl Forgers against the burn deck, and then Lawless Giant against any kind of grindy matchup. We can maybe snipe a win, deal like 6, 7, 8 damage with the Lawless Giant. Now, as for the non-original cards in my deck list, the completed challenge deck list, we need to order 47 cards. So that's all of this right here. I noted all of the cards that are above 25 cents. So, just recently, before I did this video, I think I got TCG Player around $12 to $14, $13 on average, I think. All the different carts that you can do on TCG Player. But, of course, wherever you are, maybe you need to go to your local game store to get these cards. It's going to differ, but, it should be under $20. And, yeah, so overall, we're about at the challenger deck level of about $30 US dollars. Of course, with the base MSRP, it's $15. But I've been seeing, typically when you go online, you could probably find both Planeswalker decks for $25. So you can get it down to about $12.50 per Planeswalker deck. So, if you're really trying to save and really trying to budget, maybe you're not really that into Magic, but you want to have something that's a little bit more playable, a little bit more competitive for the kitchen table. Maybe you have a friend who has some kind of crazy deck or whatever that you want to use something like this to face them, just on a budget. You really got to look into all of these ways you can save money just to reduce the cost if you're really not into Magic and you're really a budget player. So that's all of that right there. And as far as the improvements, again, I think the 3, main decking 3 Crawl Forgers, I think it's probably still a good idea to keep them, but, just keep an eye out on the Orzhov Enforcer. I think it is a good card. Maybe even from the sideboard, I don't know. That's something that, you're going to have to put more reps into the deck as well as your local meta. For me, though, I really like the Orzhov Enforcer, especially if there's not that many flyers, but we are missing some answers for flyers. And obviously, if you can play all 4 copies of Ravnica Chupacabra, they're about $1.25 each. get a full play set. It's that strong of a card in our deck because it's usually a 2-for-1. You kill a creature and then you have that body to block, get something into the graveyard. We can Memorial to Folly it later on in the game, and then find Finality, get an extra copy because there are some aggro decks. Even if you're just finding 2 creatures, just to again ensure that we get to our late game where we can pull off the Molder Hulk Memorial to Folly strategy. Even on the find part, it's really good, but on the Finality part, it's backbreaking for an aggro deck. It pretty much wins you the game on the spot. So, yeah, that's just some improvements that I would mention. So tomorrow on Sunday, I'm gonna try and release, finish editing up, and finish filming or recording the version 7 of the Starter Cube by Card Kingdom. So hopefully I'll get you guys that by tomorrow night. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna work on the Raw Color of Storms. Also, I have I wanted to give you guys an update on. I have like these standard showdown videos, vlogs that are kind of like in limbo. They're just kind of, I don't know what to do with them because they're not in this meta anymore. They're from Guilds of Ravnica meta, and I'm actually not able to attend any more standard showdowns because I'm trying to, make more money, and I'm not going to be able to, go to standard showdown anymore at 5 o'clock at my local game store number 3. So that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah. Because I really like Standard Showdown. It's really fun because it's a next level of competition. People are a lot more serious. But I don't know what to do with those videos. But yeah, what can you do? But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm gonna work on the Raw Color of Storms next. I don't know if I'm gonna buy. I definitely think I'm definitely gonna buy the next set of Ravnica Allegiance Planeswalkers, but I don't know if I'm gonna buy those yet until I complete the Raw. Just because I don't know. I really wanna just complete the Planeswalker deck challenges one by one, So, yeah, for the Raw Planeswalker deck, I already have 2 attempts on him, and they've gone really bad, really poorly. The first time was an Wizards, and the second time was this jank combo, like with Firemind's Research, trying to go through your deck, and yeah, it was kind of a little bit all over the place. And now for attempt number 3, I hope I can finally complete it using kind of a jank combo with wait, is it Tetsuko? I think it's Tetsuko, and invent as well as the erratic Cyclops. So again, that deck is complete jank, but on the kitchen table it's a lot of fun. So maybe hopefully I can pull off the combo and hopefully go at least 2-2 with the Raw Color of Storms. But again, I missed week 2, so. Week 4, then week 5, I'm probably going to sneak in 1 Raw Color of Storms in there. I also want to play Mono Black Burn. I definitely saw Dev's list from Strictly Better Magic's, what is it, the Mono Black Mayhem that he put out. But, I think I'm going to wait until the Mono Black, in the Spawn of Mayhem that's going to drop in the Rakdos Guildgate. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Gonna get that cube study out tomorrow, and yeah, take it easy.